anyway,
You are here. That's the
we
important
are
thing.
here.
So thank you for coming and very welcome to this webinar. So if you want, have you got a presentation? You want to share your presentation?
No, I look. I'm in a very special situation now because I'm hacking the house of a friend of mine,
Okay.
of a colleague,
Yeah.
because I was going home, but I'm stopped here, and I'm now in the house of this friend. That anyway, it's something quite interesting because put us on this situation of the ubiquity of these times. No,
Yeah.
we can make a conference from wherever, and I have my computer with my material. I was actually in the process of translating some of the things that I want to read. First of all, I want to say hello to Raúl. ¿Cómo está,
Hello,
don Raúl?
Enrique. I think we were missing you terribly. So very nice that you have managed to come.
Thank you very much. Very glad to see you. And also, Elena, so long that I didn't saw you, Elena. Thank you very much for being here, and everyone, Jose Manuel, Pamela, Trevor, Brian, John, John Lee. Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to share with you what is the reason because I accepted to participate in this context because well, as Raúl knows, we are in a huge transformation process in Chile with the construction of a new constitution. We in 2023 we will commemorate the 50 years of the military coup d'état in Chile. That it's always something very difficult because it's the open wound of our psychic open wound. And the construction of this new constitution help us to understand the possibility to reconfigure our system, no? The context of where we are standing. And also it's a very special date because we are commemorating the 50 years of the CyberSyn project. And always that these times of commemorations to remember the cycles, it's important to also to reconfigure a possibility to integrate to upgrade the concerns of those times in our current context. So to have this open possibility to build a new constitution in Chile, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to establish, for example, how cybernetics or social technologies could be integrated on the discussion of this new constitution. So my first call to you will be to consider how this group, the Metaforum group, could help to develop a conversation, a dialogue with the people that it's building the new constitution in Chile to integrate the possibilities of cybernetics, of social cybernetics in this context. It's quite important, quite amazing the opportunity that it's open here. So this is the first call that I wanted to give you. Then I want to thank Angela for the patience and for the invitation. Thank you. This is a special acknowledge to you. And well, I prepare a little text that I want to read you. It's not that little. That's why I will go jump from one phase to another, so we could then to have this final conversation around this provocation that I just gave you of how social cybernetics could be added in the context of this new constitution. That it's something that we talked with Raúl last year, and maybe this could be a new stage of the conversation. So,
Yes,
well,
Enrique, I've been waiting for all this time to continue the conversation, so you can
yes,
see that you're coming just in time.
yes, exactly. This is it's amazing what is happening there because we have Well, we will go in I want to read some things for you that I prepare, and I will send you the complete text for this. So
Great.
this is called the Fourth World Social Cybernetics, and I open a quote from Violeta Parra. Santiago del 800, in order to look at you, I have to look at the notes from the National Archive. They tore your body down and your soul went rolling. Santiago, penando estás. You're like a ghost. Violeta Parra, Santiago, you are like a ghost. And then open the quote. Dear friends, I want to welcome you personally to this place, since I have taken a personal interest in its development, and because I want to ask you to take a special interest in it. What you see around is the result of 18 months of hard work by a solid group of our Chilean engineers, solid group of our that have dedicated themselves to solving the management problems in companies. They have created for us a series of tools to help us in the task of controlling the economy, Modern science, and in particular electronic computing, offer to the government a new opportunity to deal with the complex modern problems of economy. We found that in so-called advanced countries, the power of science has not yet been used. We have developed a system in our spirit. What you will hear today is revolutionary, not because it is the first time you have heard it, not because it is revolutionary because we are facing a deliberate effort to give people the power that science gave us in a form in which people will be able to use it freely. So this is a translation, a very rough translation of the text that was prepared by Stafford Beer and to be read by Salvador Allende at the opening of the operation room. Maybe Raúl can tell us more about this aspect, but it is something that it's quite amazing, this speech of Salvador Allende, giving us the real essence of the project, that was to give to the people the tools of science. And what we get, on the other hand, was the use of the tools of science to dominate people, to oppress them, like Cambridge Analytica, when they used the big data to manipulate the election of Brexit, for example, the elections in Brazil, United States, or even here in Chile. So how we have been using these technologies, it's on the opposite side of, or the opposite will that it's expressed on this lecture. And for me, it's the first part of a genealogy of us of how to build a cyber nation. So I open a quote again. Whoever doesn't want the people to win this fight must be stopped. We got to get all the science together before the science runs out. This is the lyrics of a song written by Angel Parra, who made a song about the CyberSync project, and we filmed him in Paris because he was exiled to Paris, and we filmed him before he died to Angel Parra, and he was part of an effort during the CyberSync project to create a cultural program that art and culture will be able to use also this project for the dissemination of it in the rest of the country. Well, I want to read this first thing. I will send you this text, and it's a very modest and basic text. You know. In 2001, when I first learned of the existence of CyberSync project, the so-called socialist internet of the Unidad Popular, created by the British mathematician Stafford Beer between 1971 and 1973 in Chile, it remained the stuff of a urban myth. University corridor rumors, capturing the imagination of science fiction fans, far away from the acknowledged political history of Chile. My interest lay in the history of the relation between art and science in Chile, and in the potential of cybersync as an articulator of political, technological, and integral design aspects unknown to the general context. I begin to compile information in order to build a possible understanding of this unknown chapter in the history of Chile, a country constituted by its remoteness and geographical separation, the Andes, the sea, the desert, Antarctica, and by its consequent fascination with telecommunications. In this process, I meet colleagues interested in cybersyn, such as the Chileans David Maulén, José Pedro Cordero, Javier Vázquez, Hervé Boissier, Juan José Massa, and US researcher Eden Medina, among others with whom we have shared, complemented, and compiled information. One of the milestones of this research process, however, occur in a way associated with the very digital essence of this project, with a conversation that took place in real time and 15,499 kilometers away between Santiago and Magnitogorsk. Looking for information on the internet, I came across a mailing list where the Russian cybernetist Leonid Ototsky raised the relevance of Beer's work in the 21st century, and specifically gave us an example that the Cybersyn project to understand this argument. We began an exchange of emails based on the history and current contingency of Cybersyn, and Ototsky, after months of exchange, which meant a kind of initiation for me into the languages and concepts of cybernetics, not presented in the conventional educational systems, introduced me to the Metaforum group, a community of teachers, researchers, and artists who continued the legacy of Stafford Beer at various levels. The community gave me to understand that they had been waiting for a long time for an interest to emerge from Chile to rescue and give value to the project. But they understood the collective post-traumatic condition of the country. We began a process of research, compilation of material, and strategies for mass dissemination, ranging from the installation of works in museums and cultural centers to logistics applied in the mass media, making available the supporting network of this cybernetic community. Well, a major milestone was the revelation of the existence in the archive of Liverpool John Moore University in England of the Stafford Beer collection of documents, which comprise a series of documents and recent archive to be formed, including a section devoted to the Chilean project. In Beer's archive, which is located in one of the library's underground room, one can find editions, manuscripts, letters, and drawings, forming a body of work that gave an account of the transition between 20th and 21st century from the viewpoint of one of the fathers of organizational cybernetics. In the Chilean section, however, I remember a special one that caught my attention. It was a letter of Corfo letterhead that where the official speech for the inauguration of the Cybersyn operation room was written. To face that letter was to look into an abyss, to fall into it, to understand that the power of synthesis needed to be of absolute precision to present the project in a society that was living a state of borderline paralysis. On the project was never inaugurated, and the discovery of this letter show how important it was for a period of popular unity government that could not be exercised. The speech, which was to be delivered by Salvador Allende, began as follows. What you will hear today is revolutionary.
Enrique, seems to be that your signal is breaking. We are losing you.
Oh,
that's all right now. It's all right now.
Okay. So I come back. It is revolutionary because it's a deliberate effort to give people the power that science gave us in a form in which people will be able to use it freely. The discourse delivers a reasoned and didactic understanding at large compositions of the project. The message is visionary and on several levels. The tools refer to in the letter could be identified today as the first attempts to integrate information and communication technologies in a massive way, which constitutes our reality today, at a time when technology is bringing democracy, uh, okay, an element that can be questioned due to the importance and scarce knowledge we have in terms of turning the population sensitivity information into extractivist raw material. Okay, I will go further into the, because you already have the information and the history of the project, and I will not repeat it to you that you are the experts of this. But I want to jump into this part of this article that it's called "The Chilean Cybernetic Biopolitical Path to Democracy." The construction of social organizations based on neural, organic, or central nervous system models has created different detractors and defenders in the scientific, biological, philosophical, and political world. Several questions arise when we try to understand this phenomenon. Why did cybersyn develop in Chile? Its manifestation was to a series of circumstantial needs, political and economic, that manifested themselves in a specific social context, perhaps unrepeatable in the history of humanity, to the historical characteristics of Chile in the 70s. Cybersyn was a pioneering project in the use of computer science in a large-scale economic and democratic process. And this was due to a series of actions that can be located at points far removed from the historical moments that incubated its development. Its genealogical traceability can be traced back to the beginnings of computing in Chile when IBM installed the first computer to manage the entry and exit of goods at Valparaíso Custom Office in 1971, or to 1930s when the Nervio Group developed functional syndicalism, which reveals the attempt of a group of biology-focused teachers in the 1930s to install a parallel state to the communist and capitalist one, based on the hierarchical and distributed community relationship between that took neural networks as a reference point, typical of today's blockchain architecture, or better known as blockchains. Stafford Beer had access to this information in a condensed form, as he heard at a conference of biologists Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela, who he met before arriving in Chile in 1971, the essence of an intellectual body that had begun gestated from a deep history, where notions such as autopoiesis or biology of knowledge did not emerge by a spontaneous reaction. Rather, they were part of a profound collective analysis based on the scientific, political, economical, technological, and cultural research and developments that made up the right factors for Chile to offer an alternative to the process led by the First and Second World. Maturana states in his blog, that was not the aim of the project and certainly not Stafford Beer's intention. It was Fernando Flores who wanted to apply the brain of the firm at the level of an entire country. He invited Stafford to support the engineers in charge of the project and to familiarize with cybernetics. In fact, thanks to this effort, in many parts of the country, production was monitored in real time, with data coming together in a so-called control room. The idea was to develop the mathematical models needed to make remote calculations of development that were just beginning to emerge, which would give the possibility of reacting instantly to any eventually problem or change without having to wait months before being able to make the necessary decisions and adjust the corresponding actions programs. This was Stafford Beer's intention. He wanted to establish a centralized management system, but not a control instrument. For him, it was not the idea of control that was central, although it may have been for Fernando Flores, but that control room, as Heinz van Verster, who also visited Chile at the time, said was not a real control room because there was no data processing capacity and no possibility of testing different situations in their most diverse variants in model form. Cybersyn was then configured as a precision tool that structured this emerging alternative, which began its development from one extreme vanguard through the combination of factors that integrated computation, industrial design, artificial proto-intelligence, interactive operating rooms, the application of creative technologies, and a high level of participation of workers from both the state and the connected companies, forming a kind of fourth world social cybernetics. This is the reason when the United Nations Conference for Development, or UNCTAD III, was held in 1972 in Santiago de Chile, one of the topics discussed was the fourth world, where the need was raised to inspire a process that would install an alternative to those proposed by both capitalism and communism, where nature is a consumable raw material for the development of countries without considering the effects of the annihilation of the ecosystem, a condition that has the world today in a state of extreme urgency. The opportunity to establish a democratic context was interrupted, and the use of information technologies, organizational cybernetics, were converted into instruments of mass control that quickly replaced television, radio, and cinema as means of propagandistic distribution, configuring the use of these technologies for commercial purposes. Far removed from the notion of the common good, free distribution of content and information, constituting a series of harmful effects for society, such as the supplanting of knowledge by sterile, oversaturated, paralyzing information. The infiltration of the internet in each of these social processes has managed to establish unprecedented power in Silicon Valley based companies, where datology has radically and exponentially changed the cultural, political, and economical paradigms of this civilization. Cybersyn, in this sense, was an attempt to give life form to a regularized context, from the state to technologies that allow us today, for example, to know the location in real time of those who have decided or not to share it through applications such as WhatsApp or Facebook. Through Google or Waze, we can plan in real time a route through the city and now the closest destinations to our final objective, the control urban defeat, attacking us with commercial advertisements that are recommended thanks to the voice recognition system activated in our electronic devices. This dematerialization of the archive also corresponds to the current paradigm itself, which manifests itself through the reproduction of our consciousness on the internet, where our profiles on social network are true mirrors of ourselves, the fragmentating our identity, as Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels announced in the Communist Manifesto. All that is solid is vanished into the air, and all that is sacred is profane, and men, at least, are forced to consider serenely their conditions of existence and their reciprocal relationships. Although the Cybersyn documents have been found, we can speak the constitution of an archiving process, and this text shows the need to carry out both political and documentary work in order to integrate them into the National Archive of Chile, constituting a documentary collection that will give an account of the importance with documents from different sources. In the interview conducted by this research with the scientific director of the project, Raúl Espejo, he recounts that on 11 of September 1973, he left Corfo building on Moneda Street in central Santiago with a series of files hidden in his clothes, while soldiers were on their way to the government palace to suspend democracy in Chile for almost 20 years. These documents will later be hidden out of Chile to England, where Stafford Beer, and who was the general director of the project, received in exile those who managed to leave the country. In another interview conducted for this research in 2007, Isaquino Benao, the person in charge of ECOM, Chilean computer companies, confessed that, using magnets, They erased the magnetic tapes containing the information of the software that had been created especially for the project, with the aim of annihilating any possibility of it being used by the military dictatorship. It is therefore a particular defeat to go through the cybersync documents, since after more than 40 years, they could return a few blocks away in the National Archive, from where they will come out hidden to be part of the history of the cybernetic and political relationship in Chile. Now we have the opportunity to integrate the history, the memory of the CyberSync project into the construction of a new constitution. So my question is, community, Metaforum community, how this community could help to the Chilean process to integrate this history, our memory, into the transformation process that we are living in today. This is my open question to you to open the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enrique. Really interesting and exciting proposal that you are giving us. So I would like to just invite everyone who wants to comment. I have a question to start the conversation. I mean, the question is more about what you were saying before going into the topic of how can we as a community support the process in Chile in this moment, yeah? But I've always had a question regarding the project, because I know that many of the criticisms about the CyberSync project have been related to the fact that everybody remembers the CyberSync project in particular because of the importance of the technology and the innovation that Stafford was bringing to the idea of governance by using the ideas from the VSM, but also the existing technology to try to provide this idea of governance, real-time governance and democratic governance and so on. But you mentioned as well the People Project, and you mentioned the importance of the cultural revolution that was going on at the same time, and you mentioned Ángel Parra, and you mentioned, let's say, this alternative aspect of the CyberSync project that I think that has been less disseminated than the more technological aspects of it. So I would like to know what's your opinion about the People's Project and about the more humane revolution that was going on at the same time, and the CyberSync project was also sort of promoting. What is your view on that?
Well, I think that it was something quite interesting is the contribution also of Gibbon Siepe into this to understand the cultural dissemination or the cultural implicance of the project, because in the Gibbon Siepe was a student of Max Bill in the Ulm Hochschule für Gestaltung in Germany, and in this time the Bauhaus evolution, you could say, after being closed by the Nazis in Germany, and the new constitution of the Ulm University, the Ulm Hochschule für Gestaltung, implied a social use of design, of graphic design, of industrial design, or product design. And in this sense, the cultural participation was not just, for example, the creation of poetry or the creation of films or the creation of music, but the creation of elements, the development of elements that will be used in a context in a massive context. How the project could be integrated in the ergonomy of the Chilean people. It was something quite relevant as an art and craft. And this is amazing because as in Cuba, you know, Chile in that time was living a moment of they didn't have. Raúl could tell us much better about this, but they have to invent their own technologies. They have to invent their own software. And for me, this is also a cultural process.
I think that, oh gosh,
Here I-
Yes, we've all switched off the videos so that we can have more signal with you. But it's all right now. It's all right now.
Thank you very much. So, Elena, for me, it's a very, very important question because it's not the assimilation of the cultural as we know it in a classic way. We are talking about the digital culture context, where the use of technology today, of internet, has constituted a new culture, a new cultural process, where, for example, I consider quite amazing the possibility to understand that cybersyn was also a kind of art and crafts uh, effort of use the computer as a tool, but not in the context of a tool that was produced in a huge company and then brought it here. It was self-made, the do-it-yourself culture that it's part of the hacktivist community. And with this, I think that it's quite important to relevate the idea of hackers or hacktivists, not as someone that goes and steal your information from your computer, but as someone that knows how to use computers or how to build them. So, if we consider that we had a group of hackers in the government of Salvador Allende melting the technologies that they had together with of something that I said on the text, that it's a genealogy that came from a deep history in the past, that it's connected to not just to Humberto Maturana or Francisco Varela, but many others that developed this the construction of their own tools based on the geographical context of Chile. That it's also quite important to understand our tectonic history. We have the most strong earthquakes registered in the world in Chile. We live in a country that we have to rebuild it each 50 years. No, so the the idea of do it yourself or do it with others, that it's common in the context of the makerspace or the hack space. It's in Chile something that must be constituted in the center of of our lives. No? So I hope that this will it maybe moves the answer to another field, Angela, but it's the field that for us is quite important because connect us, the community generation that is using today computers and technology to create art, design, and other manifestations of culture, to understand that cybersyn was a kind of milestone to our current context in that sense.
Well, this is absolutely great, and I would like to following from your answer. I would like to understand a little bit more. How do you see that the influence of the cyber scene or Stafford in general and Maturana are having in the current process in Chile to reinvent the constitution?
Yeah, this is quite amazing because we have a huge opportunity now to because there is a that one of the biggest discussions in the last weeks have been the creation of the rules of the assembly of the constitution, because they entered without rules, you could say, some frames, some legal frames, but in general it is the constitution, the constitutionalist has the responsibility to create actually the rules of how they will develop. And one of the first problems that they had was that in the ex-Congress building, they didn't have internet. And this was amazing because they understood, and they didn't have the possibility because we are doing this in the context of a pandemic. They cannot be in the same room, all the people. They have to be divided in different rooms. They have to have a closed circuit TV system so they can talk each other, and they are using internet now to build the rules. So this is a kind of a cyberfolk work frame. They are building through using internet the rules of the constitution, because they cannot meet, even if they are in the same building, they cannot be together in the same room. So they separate in different rooms, and they use this intranet to create the communication and the dialogue and to compile the information. And Emma Ramon, that is the director of the National Archive, has been working in a huge effort to use social technologies to create an order and a memory of the conversation of the constitutionalists. And she's very aware of the CyberSync project and the CyberSync effort to integrate in the time of Allende something like a work frame for economy. So it could be this a huge entrance with Emma Ramon to understand the use of social technology or cybernetics, or I will not dare to say DSM and constitution without have this conversation with you. So this is the opportunity, but I think that we could initiate in that sense, again, a workshop to understand how we could develop a contribution to this process. And I'm sure that Emma Ramon and the people from the new constitution will be very open to develop something like this. I think that Raúl Espejo has a huge paper, a huge role into that, and because he could be somehow the messenger with the possibility to, for example, to express and to put ourselves at the disposition of the new constitution to integrate this process. But it's important to have a methodology to understand how, if you want to do it, if you have the time, and to create together a methodology for that.
Okay, great. We have 3 people wanting to ask questions, so let's start with Brian. Brian, okay. Pam, and John Walker. Brian, would you like to talk? You are muted.
Unmute?
Yes, that's all right now. Yeah.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
So this might lead to an offline conversation with the speaker, and I'm happy for my email address to be passed on to him. So I am working through talks in the general intellect unit. I think Raul may be familiar with it. These 2 people who lead the group, Shane and Kyle, I think it is, attended the Metaforum in 2018 or 19, whichever it was. And they are working through chapters of Brain of the Firm. And the talk I was just listening to last night is where they're starting to think, could they write an open source version of the VSM, right? How the software was kind of lost or is archaic or cannot be resurrected, but they would like to start from scratch. So I would like to pass on to them what is transpiring in this meeting and vice versa, in case they could be brought in to the conversation.
Thank you, Brian. Enrique, you want to respond to that?
Well, Brian, please, let's have a offline conversation about this, and let's for sure keep developing. I think that the result of this conversation should be the creation of a group of interest that could approximate to a possible methodology to have this to create this project.
Okay, we have Pam. Pam.
Yes. So I'm just curious because I'm finding in my research that this whole concept of the S3, S4 homeostat as being so important, but yet really, really hard to envision for governments. And it seems to me, at least, that a lot of the recursive levels below in a government approach all are doing their anticipation in different ways. And so when you want to look at how the whole government or how this constitution would enable it to be adaptive, is there has to be some level of centralization. It either can be that it's just one central unit that does anticipation, or something that takes the anticipation results from lower levels and brings them all together. I'm just curious as because it's hard. You think about like climate change, nobody can agree on what climate model might be the right one, or even with the pandemic, all these different models. And at a government level, there's just, really nobody saying, okay, we're going to go with this one, or we're going to use these three and we're going to do scenarios on these three. How does the Chilean government anticipation, work the way you see it now?
Well, basically, it's Pamela. It's quite well. Economically, Chile it's in a very strong position in relation to what is happening in the rest of the region, because it has been very reserved. You could say we had to push the government to help the people to give resources because the people was very bad. But now we said that we are hitting the Chilean economy because there is too much money in the process. So we are predicting that we'll have a huge inflation in the next months, example, and this will lead us to because we have presidential elections this year also. So will lead us to predict at the same time that the next administration will have a huge recession. Sorry. So which are the models that are being used? Well, this I don't know specifically. Which are the methodologies used by the Ministry of Economy? But as we work together with the Modeling Mathematical Center of Universidad de Chile, with Alejandro Jofre, that it's now the pro-rector of the Universidad de Chile, and I could ask him and invite him to be part of a conversation to revelate the exact methods and algorithms that they are using in the micro and macroeconomic process of the next Chilean period.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is not so much. I mean, certainly there are all sorts of predictive models that various organizations are putting forth, but in general, more the process. Like, is there a process that, let's look at not just economics, but let's say we're looking at it, what's the impact of future health crisis or that kind of thing. Narratives and getting the stakeholders together to actually kind of go through some future scenarios. Those kinds of things can be, in my opinion, at least as important, if not more important, than some of the predictive mathematical models. It's just that I think when we talk about VSM for government, I think we just oftentimes just kind of, not gloss over, but not pay much attention to what that System 4 is doing. And at the level of government, we just look at it as there's a bunch of System 4 stuff going on, but how is it even being used at an aggregate levels? So I think that my comment is more on not ignoring that or not relying too much on just predictive modeling, but how can you actually get the government and the people in the country to participate, anticipating what changes could be happening in the future?
Yeah, for example, I just sent you through the chat a project made by 3 universities here in Chile to predict the COVID effects in the country. And this was made because these universities didn't trust in the information that was being delivered by the government. So through this project, they were able to create cultural health policies for the administration of the crisis, basically. And it was quite crucial to have this this project because the people was looking more into this board panel, data panel, than to the government to decide at the end if they will go out of the houses or not. So this was quite amazing how it was created as a parallel government during the pandemic crisis. The restructurization of the universities here in Chile as an important institution that will give us the parameters to continue with life, basically. This was quite amazing and quite important project.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you, Enrique. We have a large queue now of people wanting to talk. So we have John Walker, Javier Livas, James Fox, Elena, John Waters, and Trevor. So let's go with John Walker first. John, are you still wanting to participate or?
Yeah, I was just unmuting.
Okay.
Yeah, and Enrique, I was interested to know if you looked at the work done in Iceland when they recently put their new constitution together. There's an extraordinary story about how they involved almost the whole population in the generation of a new constitution, which the bits of I read are quite inspiring. I wonder if that had any impact on the work going on in Chile.
We are very aware of this, and the idea to use wiki, like a wiki constitution, is quite interesting, and I think that nowadays we have also other tools that come from, for example, and this is amazing because as the same. I think that there is a parallel history with the Ulm initiative, the Gibbon Siepe that came from what is amazing on the Ulm Hochschule für Gestaltung experience in Chile is that it was like a user experience and UX pioneer project, you know. And nowadays we have, for example, other tools that also comes from UX, user experience, as Miro, for example, or others that are used to for example, develop wireframes to create websites, for example, you know, and are much more visual and gives you the possibility of a more non-linear way of interaction. So this is quite amazing in terms of usability, that the possibility to also to use these platforms as Miro, for example, that I really recommend to solve this platform.
Thank you, Enrique and John. We have Javier in the queue. Javier Livas.
Thank you, Angela. Enrique.
Hola.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Okay, look. I have studied this deal with the Constitution for a long time. And maybe I'm wrong, but the technical part of deciding what should go into the Constitution is the easy part, okay? I have no doubt of what should go in there. I have written a constitution that is not more than 2 pages long, okay? Which goes contrary what has been happening to other constitutions or other projects that I've been learning about, that they grab it and, you know, start putting in there a lot of things idealistic things and all that. What you need is the basic structure. So if in the Constitution you make reference to the rules and the structure of the VSM, you've solved about 90% of the problem. Okay?
Mhm.
So if you want to, I can give you a copy. There are some things that have to be changed to make things work. And let me just give you a reason why I think this is so. The American Constitution is a replica of the VSM, okay? Except that all the executive power is organized hierarchically. So you have a half and half solution, okay? You have the organic, the Congresses and the states and the counties and cities. Those are recursive, and they have their own city board or assembly, or they have their own legislature. But then when you get to the executive, you have a vertical authoritarian structure. Okay, so you are mixing both things at the same time. And that is what leads us to a disaster. Okay, so the solution is to be consistent. Go with the VSM all the way. Okay, but instead of having an executive, you are going to have a lot of different economic sectors, each one organized recursively, so that then you are going to have, let's say, perhaps 12, 13, 14, 15 different economic sectors. Each one of those sectors is like one of the functions of a living cell. You have transportation, you have energy, you have transformation, you have commercialization, and so on, services and recycling. So it doesn't take too many different sectors to describe the whole thing and make it really viable, okay? And then within each of those sectors, you would have different industries, okay? Now, the problem is that it is very hard to get a consensus and people to trust this sort of thing. And then if you don't count with the people at the bottom of the, let's say, social spectrum, if there is no unity in the country, nobody will accept the VSM. Nobody, okay? Nobody will accept the one you're doing right now, except if it is not going to work anyway. So I would say there's the moment to sell the VSM as the key organizing factor. And then the other thing you have to break away from is representative democracy. I just read Robin Asby's book, and he is coinciding with me in something that I'm going to say right now. One of the legislative branches should be the House of Experts, okay? So when you are going to elect somebody to the transportation sector, you elect him not because he's from Monterrey or from Mexico City or from Guerrero or from Chile or from Santiago, okay? You elect him because he knows his stuff, okay? So then all the economic sectors would have elected officials that are chosen because of their knowledge, not because of their origin. Now, this I know is troublesome. It looks troublesome because it's a departure from representative democracy. But representative democracy was the way the founding fathers decided to solve the problem of the distance. You have to go to the Congress. You have to take you have to ride a horse or take a stagecoach, and you would take 2 or 3 weeks to get there. Okay, so the whole Constitution right now is based on geography, and we should go to a modern approach, which is based on function, based on efficiency. Okay, so I think I've said enough. It's up to you, and I wish you luck.
Thank you very much, Javier. I think that we are in a, well, I was thinking on the president, elected president of the constitution here in Chile, that it's a Mapuche woman who she has been talking about love, you know, because and tenderness, because there was so much violence in the last months, years here in Chile, because of the social uprising, and this is and also there was a lot of rage because of the election of indigenous people to write the new constitution, and we are in a process of decolonization, of a huge decolonization in the whole region, you know, and that's why I think that the connection between the VSM and what is happening in Chile must consider this decolonization process also. It's not like that you will come to apply, or anyone, a model in the context of the in the Chilean process or any of the processes in the region, but it's how you raise up something that generally emerge from this context, from this integration of the collision between the indigenous wisdom and the current social climatic emergency. You know, this is something that will raise up the attention of the community in a huge way.
And thank you, Enrique. We have Elena waiting, and John Waters. So, Elena.
The first thing I'd like to say is that I think Stafford's integration process, which Metaforum basically gave a working demonstration this January of doing it online, is a great way to bring people together, to integrate their perspectives, and to get some sense that you might have, if you do enough of them, requisite variety to understand exactly what the situations are. Well, maybe not exactly, but to have a much broader understanding of what the situations are from the perspective of people at all levels and sectors. The second thing I would like to say is that I agree with Pam that there are real problems with the anticipation function. And with respect to the VSM, I think that in many countries, including the United States, that the reason that the anticipation function doesn't work very well is that the System 5 identity is fragmented. And if you don't have an identity at System 5 that is capable of understanding and acting with some sense of agreed norms and values that are accepted by the whole, then it's almost impossible to have a System 4 that has any sound basis for exploring and acting in order to anticipate the future. And I think that that's a real problem in many areas. And I think that if you try to do as is happening in Chile and kind of build that from the ground up, I think that that might have a very different result than what we see now, where we have a lot of entrenched interest groups and industries and what have you that are being a really strong barrier to addressing things like climate change and how to deal with the pandemic.
Thank you, Elena. Before I give the word to John Waters, just a comment about what your suggestion. I remember now the World's Integrity Project that Stafford led in 1994 when he launched this integrity book. And in those days, he was dreaming that it was possible to build up. We have someone that has in those days, he had the dream to make a world constitution, and he developed a really interesting process in 30 countries to simultaneously have groups of infosets of 30 people thinking about the principles for a world constitution. So, I mean, he did have the idea of using this integration to create this kind of constitutional process. And there is no reason why Chile couldn't in this moment consider doing something similar because now we have the technology. And as Elena said, well, we had a prototype that we will be happy to share with whoever is interested in the Metaforum of an online integration, and that's something that is one way in which the Metaforum community could certainly contribute in a very practical way in this moment.
Angela, this is amazing, very beautiful. Thank you very much.
No, you are welcome, and very happy to talk more about that. I mean, Elena, John, and me have been leading this process, and I'm pretty sure that we will be delighted to talk more with you about that possibility. Okay?
Please, okay. Thank you.
John Waters.
Thank you. I wouldn't disagree with much of what has just been said. However, I think there's a danger of over-egging things, because we're always going to be in a constantly changing environment, and we can't afford to make too many assumptions about what problems we're going to face in the future. Some will be created by humans, some won't. But the ultimate boundary really has to be what can the planet accept and what will people accept. So I think, from my perspective, I think we should be aiming to simplify things to a global and very, very simple System 5 policy. If possible, reduced to something as simple as the pair people care, earth care. Now, if they're not well defined, they can come into conflict, but I think that they can be. I think the constraints can be defined. So I think the challenge is to make sure that that System 5 policy is always passed down, so that every level, as locally as possible, the deviation from that policy can be addressed in the most local way possible, with whatever is appropriate and available to deal with it. And I think that to try to predict in any kind of constitution what is going to be appropriate or even practicable is rather too optimistic. In any case, I think dealing with technology at this point is a red herring, because we already have pretty much everything we could possibly want, and we can easily create whatever we don't have. So that's almost a trivial matter. I'll shut up here.
Thank you, John. Enrique,
Very much.
Comments to John?
Angela, I would like to just jump in to say something.
Yes, please.
I thank you, Enrique, for all that you have said there. Personally, I feel that the most important thing regarding the new constitution is to build up relationships. And in that connection, the ideas that Elena was proposing connected to integration are very significant. However, the key point that I'm trying to clarify in my own mind is, who are the people at the moment coming into the process of this building up the constitution? I can imagine easily that the 152 or whatever number is of people belonging to this constitution, all of them will be interested to give their contribution. But in terms of the extension of that group into the whole society, do you have any feeling about people trying to create parallel groups and support with conversations whatever is happening in the Constitutional Assembly? So more than anything, I'm interested in the people's contribution and all the problems that can attach to that.
Yeah, Raúl, there is a, thank you very much, because this is quite important. The thing is that you could understand the composition of the group, that it's they have like representatives from left wing, right wing, and independent sector. The left and the right wing, they have think tanks that are delivering information, technical information for the discussion of the different elements. But the independent sector doesn't have a think tank or research groups that could help them to raise up quantitative, qualitative, or any data that could help them to have a good conversation on the or a good argument for the discussion of the different elements that they will discuss. So in that sense, for example, what we are trying to make is to raise up the attention of several groups at this one that could contribute with information or any cognitive elements that could help the groups to empower the discussion. That and in terms of, for example, how we have a huge opportunity on this constitution on how we will integrate gender equality, protection of nature, the integration of culture as a human right, and specifically of social technologies. This could be one of the first constitutions of the 21st century that could integrate the social technologies of the use internet as a regulated aspect of life. And I think that in that sense, cybersyn has a lot to offer, and the further developments that we have been developing in the last times. So this I hope to answer this question and also to provoke again the possibility of how this group could help the people that it's writing on close eye, because this is the thing. It's like to be in a dark room. There are no elements or no parameters of other constitutions that had integrate the concern of social technologies in its regulation or in the articles written on it.
I find very interesting what you're saying, Enrique, because what I understood is that the left wing and the right wing groups in the Constitutional Assembly, they have their own groups, think tanks that are supporting their work. However, the independent group, which is a significant one, I assume is about a third of the whole thing.
Yeah, or more.
They haven't organized themselves in order to extend, to amplify their thinking through groups in society.
It is likely.
And that to me is a significant gap, which could be an area where is more than cybersyn, is what I would relate to second order cybernetics, or the whole idea of communications, which can have a great support coming from cybersyn, that in fact, beyond that particular initial impetus, I think the general aspect is to build up communications and create with that participant groups that can support the independence and can create new opportunities for the Constitution to develop. So have you seen anything in that direction practically, in the sense, are you aware of these kind of groups that are trying to coordinate their thinking and offer something to the writing up of the new Constitution?
Yes, well, basically the universities are organizing to help them. Also, some foundations, like foundations that, like ONG, NGO, digital rights, that you have the possibility to know one of them, Vladimir Garay, Raul, when we made this video lecture last year with you and him. And also people, as I said, people from universities and the foundations and NGOs that are organizing the development of technical text reports that could be presented to the people from the constitutionalists, and also the establishment, and this is quite important, the establishment of commissions inside the constitution. So what could be very, very important is the possibility to help to create inside the assembly a commission that will be focused on the concerns that we could raise up. You know, this is a huge opportunity to create a serious.
Do you personally have some connections to make this happen?
Sorry?
Do you have connections to make this happen? Do you have
Yes.
any? Yes.
Yes, actually, tomorrow I have a meeting with the pro-rector of the Universidad de Chile, Alejandro Jofre, in order to talk about specifically how between our organization and the Universidad de Chile we could help to create a commission concerned to culture, arts and science. Basically, this is the focus of our conversation, but also it could be an opportunity to open the dialogue to have a commission specifically dedicated to social technologies, for example, in order to integrate in the articulated of the new constitution a text that will indicate these aspects of life, and economy and politics. And so
I find that this connection with Jofre is a very exciting one. Is he particularly related to the Constitutional Commission, or is he just the Vice Chancellor of the University of Chile?
No, through his position, he's helping to the. You know that almost the Constitution was bring it to the university because there were no technical conditions in the ex-Congress building to organize it. So they were almost to one day to have the commissions and the new constitution development on the Universidad de Chile. So there is a huge relation between them now. That's why this is a huge opportunity to integrate somehow. And there is the possibility to go through the Universidad de Chile. It's also quite interesting because it could be an opportunity to also to integrate the different people that it's in the community of Metaforum, to connect also with your own universities. You know? So this is quite interesting to have a international university networks working to or connected to help to the integration of these elements in the new constitution in Chile. And Metaforum as a filter amplificator of this relation, it's beautiful.
This is
sorry, Angela, this is the last thing I will say. After that, I leave it to you. I think, Enrique, you know Ray Eisen, don't you?
No.
That's an interesting. Ray Eisen has a recent book where he talks about constitutions. And he is an incredibly active person within the systems community, not necessarily the cybernetic community, but the systems community. Yeah. And I would say Ray Eisen could be an interesting contact to bring into the processes in Chile some of the views he works mainly from the Open University and Australia, But I think that could be of some significance to make it international, or give international connections.
Let me give you a little feedback on this before going with Angela again, because our whole idea is how we develop an editorial context where, for example, we could compile the experience of the Chilean constitution and then to give this experience to other countries that could work using our experience, integrating these aspects of protection of nature, gender equality, use of social technologies, and cultural as a human right. That are things that will be very, very important innovations in the context of this new constitution in Chile.
Well, thank you, Enrique and Raul. We will close the loop in a minute. I know that Elena has also raised hands, but before I give it to Elena, just in respect to what you were saying, just to let you know that I had the opportunity to participate in 1991, in Colombia, when we created the new constitution. I was the Secretary of Informatics of the President's Office in those days, and I participated in what we call the Asamblea Nacional Constituyente. That was all the process that we designed in Colombia to create in a very participatory and democratic way the new constitution. And I actually co-designed with Antanas Mocus the methodology for democratic involvement of the people in the design of the new constitution, and I led the Science, Education and Technology Commission. So we created, not like in Chile, it wasn't led by the political parties. It was a process that was intended to invite everyone in the country who wanted to participate to provide ideas about the principles of the new constitution. It took us 11 months, to generate this process, but we managed to involve an enormous amount of people all throughout the country. And of course, the way that we designed the methodology was basically inspired in cybernetics. So, I mean, at any time we can talk more about that, Enrique, but I mean, I did have that experience and it worked very nicely in those days. So that's another way that we can very likely contribute. Elena.
I thought my hand was lowered. I didn't raise my hand.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, but Elena, do you have any comment at this point also?
My comment only is that it would be a privilege to contribute to this in whatever way we can, as Metaforum or as individuals with their own ideas and questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Trevor, I don't know if you had a question, but you were in the list of people who were wanting to make comments. Are you still wanting to make a comment?
No, thanks. I'm fine.
Okay. Well, in that case, I guess that because we are running late on this, we could be here for hours. It would be nice to have like a plan on how can we continue this conversation, who would like to be involved in continuing this conversation. Obviously, Raul, it will be very important if you are with us, if we make a little team from the Metaforum, and Elena and John. I don't know who else would like to be in this group to continue working. Exploring options of how can we support the Chileans in this project.
Angela, one thing that perhaps you are very much aware of is that at the moment I'm organizing the WOSC 2021 meeting.
Yeah.
So that is a meeting that is taking place from the 27th to the 29th of September, and which, as you're aware of, it was originated by WOSC in agreement with the Russian Academy of Sciences. One of the topics that we are going to talk about relates to all that we are saying now. So I'll be very, very glad to see a connection that somehow to find that Enrique and all of us here can build up some connections around organizations like WASC or like Metaforum itself.
Okay, okay. Right, so we have Brian, Lederer, Elena, you, obviously with the limitations of time that we all have, wanting to continue the conversation. So Enrique, what do you suggest? How can we continue? How would you like to continue this conversation and come up with some practical ideas?
I would like to, if you allowed me, I will mention this to the Vice Chancellor of the university tomorrow. And then I could return with also with a proposal of a next meeting that could be that maybe he could participate also in this meeting, and to have also an official counterpart with Universidad de Chile taking a lead here in this context. So this could be a possible proposal to continue to have this open possibility together with Universidad de Chile, and then to think in an agenda of, for example, I think there should be 3 aspects. One, the development of a series of a seminar that could be organized through the experience of other constitutions, like the one of Finland or the Colombian one, or other constitutions that has been recently made. Also, the development of technical documents dedicated to, for example, to this commission that could be formed as a social technologies commission, and also the possibility to systematize all the information and to think in a post-constitution text that will integrate the experience of the Chilean process and how this experience could be trespassed to other countries or to research centers that are concerned with constitutions.
Right. Well, that sounds very interesting. I know that that Jose Perez Rios was also making a comment that I didn't see on time. Jose, would you like to comment now before we finish?
Well, no, it was just a reference to Javier Livas, but I think that Javier is not now is out. He left the group. It was a comment about what the reference he made when talking about the Constitution of the United States, based on the experience with the Iroquois, I think that he was mentioning, that was a kind of bottom-up process. So my comment is in relation to the recursive structure that is going to be taken in this process in Chile, if there is a explicit recursive structure. Javier was mentioning that he proposed not going to a geographical one, but going to a kind of sectorial one. Well, this is something to be discussed. I don't see it. I see the difficulty, no, in his approach. So this is just a reflection, not a proposal. But I think that the recursive structure should be taken into account in order to be able to start with the individual. So this individual will have the identity that was made reference by Pamela, I think, of getting the identity of System 5 at the top, and going to the same identity in the individual, in the lower level of the country. No? How can you make this connection? And this takes us to the communication channels that was not made reference to it. So the nervous system, the communication channels that should be taken into consideration when designing this constitution, how is going to be made the communication among all those structural recursive levels. So this was the comment, just only a reference to that. That was just ringing in my mind, you know, about the issue. Only that. Thank you, Angela.
Okay, well, thank you, Jose. Well, this has been an extremely exciting conversation. So, Enrique, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And I think that your proposal makes a lot of sense. So why don't you let us know after you have had your conversations tomorrow, what's the response, and then we can organize another Zoom meeting with those who have volunteered to be supporting you. So I will contact them. If anyone here who I haven't mentioned want to be part of the team, let me know, and we can have like another Zoom meeting just with you and those who want to explore possibilities of collaboration a little bit more seriously sooner than later. Okay. You are muted. You are muted, Enrique. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Angela, and to all of you for this beautiful meeting, conversation.
Well, no, thank you.
Thank you, Enrique.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Extremely interesting. So thank you very much.
Enrique, I am waving my hand, but I realize that my image is not there. So.
Maybe we can put all the camera ons now we are finishing.
Yes,
So...
I think that to say goodbye would be nice to just to see each other. And it's weird to have a conversation with no videos.
I think it is.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you very much. I want to put this as also as the possibility of a commemoration of the 50 years of the CyberSyn project. You know, it's quite important. Deserves an attention. And I really
one of the journals of the Universidad de Chile is making a special issue about CyberSyn now. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, for sure. That's why tomorrow we will have this beautiful session. And I want to resemblance the image of John Waters on the image of the mushroom and the mycelium. You know, this is the bottom up that Jose Perez Orquios was mentioning for me. You know, it's not just a human bottom up; it's a multi-species and interspecies context. You know that, and this will be very important in the context of this new constitution. It's not just for humans. You know? It's not a new age or mambo jumbo thing to integrate the rights of other human beings, the living beings in the constitution. It's the only way to protect the disaster, the climatic disaster that we are living in. And that's why it's so important to put all the effort in the context of this new constitution in Chile. Because if we can make it here, maybe we could make it everywhere. You know? And this is a little ray of hope, you know, for these dark moments. So I think that the knowledge, the wisdom of Stafford Beer is extremely required to come back to Chile again. You know, we need it. And it's through you that we could make it. So please participate, be part of it.
I already told them I was trying not to.
Well, this is a very exciting invitation in a very timely moment.
Yeah.
And let's hope that we can really contribute. Really important what is going on there, and excellent moment to commemorate the 30 years of the CyberSyn project. So
50.
Thank you.
50 years.
50 years.
Sorry, 50, yeah.
I think.
Thank you very much.
I am older than that, so don't worry.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.